Welcome to another breakdown of Eurjpy. Let's get straight into the charts. As we can see, we've been in a major downtrend on this pair. What's significant to note is that after making this low here at 1450 approximately, we had some strong bullish price action and we've actually broken out of the downward trend and has now come down to retest this zone. You can see that we've made a significant reaction to the T of this area. If we mark off this area is at around 119.50. 119.50, right? So just generally speaking, I think that we still are in this current mini little uptrend, but overall this movement here is very bearish. We made a high here, then we made a low, then a lower high, a lower low, a lower high here, and then a lower low down here. This is the most recent low. We broke up and broke above the most recent high, with forming a higher high. So if we could keep this trend going into next week and the weeks coming, we could see some more upside for Eurjpy. Alternatively, if we break below this point here at 119.50, I think we could see some more downside for sells. Could even possibly come and create a double bottom and retest 114.50. Alright, so that's how I see things on a macro level, right? So on a trade to trade basis, if I delete everything, just like last week, what I like to do is start with the monthly time frame. Just to get an idea of where this current monthly candle is at. This current monthly candle will be closing on Tuesday or Wednesday, not sure, one of those 2 days next week. So we could kind of get an idea of where this monthly candle may close, if we may close a little more bearish or come pull back up and retest the high of last week or somewhere about. So I would identify this current monthly high at 124.38, then drop down to the weekly time frame. So this week's high came in at 121, approximately 121.08, but I like to get nice round numbers, so I'll go with 121. That is a little low. All right, we'll go to 121.08. I thought it was closer to the high. I'd established the weekly low in at 119.34, and that's the weekly low. Now what this does is it establishes a range I wish I could see price action react for this coming week, right? We could either get a retest of the high of the week or a retest of the low of the week, and that would give some strong movement or momentum into the market at around these areas. Oh yeah, I like to label. So I'd label this one last week's high, okay, last week's low. All right, so now we've identified the week's high and week's low for the previous week. We drop down to the daily time frame. Now remember what I explained at the beginning of this video is that initially I showed you all my overall view of the market or where I think things could go, but then what I like to do is take each trade day by day, trade by trade, because ultimately you have no idea what the market is going to do and how price is going to move. So if it is we take things day by day, we get to be a little more present and see the most recent price action that will give us the most likely trade and not marry a particular bias that we've seen on the higher time frames. So all right, we just established the weekly high and the weekly low. Now we have the daily low and the daily high. You see we had for like 4 days on Eurjpy, we had some dojis, which shows like some indecision in the market. We're not sure if we're going up or we're going down, But remember, as I said earlier on in the video, this area here, last week's low of 119.34 is the area for me to beat coming into this week. If it is we drop break below, we could see a nice range play down into these lows at 117.38, but that's beside the point for now. After we establish the daily high and the daily low, we could let's label. I know this may seem tedious, but I have learned that labeling it assists me when you see prices moving kind of hectic and we getting live price action with some momentum behind it. It kind of keeps you grounded, so you know that all right, you see prices coming into the daily high or coming into the daily low or your weekly high or your weekly low. You see that on your chart, so you know exactly what's happening at any given point of time. Which one did I just click? This is the daily high. So I would put Friday's high, Friday's high, and then okay. The next one would be Friday's low. Friday's low. Alright, what I would like, alright, well, before I get into that, let's drop down to the forward time frame to see how price would have reacted. Like you see the weekly high, we got a nice reaction. Price formed some support down here, broke the support, retested the support, came back down, formed Friday's low, came back up, retested the Friday's high once again. Like you see this kind of price action, this kind of table tennis, tick-tock between ranges. That's what we like to see. So coming into this week, wait, let's see, let's drop back down to the daily time frame. Alright, so coming into this week, what I would like to see is a retest of, well, if it is we are to maintain some bullish momentum, I would like us to remain above last week's low at 1934. If you could come down here and create a double bottom, we could see some buys up and play these ranges up. If we break below last week's low, we could come back down and retest. I think the next level that I would look at is possibly 1850. Coordinates 1850, and then the next level after 1850 would be somewhere around 1700. All right, just like I explained, I don't marry my bias. So you see, I kind of give an idea of my bias on the earlier half of analyzing this pair. But as I said before, I don't marry the bias. So I have my ranges to the downside and my ranges to the upside. What I'm looking to see is price action, the kind of price action I get around the key areas of these ranges. So if I see that, so we have a new weekly candle coming in from Sunday night, Monday, right? If I see that new weekly candle open and begins to come down to retest last week's low, I'd look around this area to see if I see any bullish price action on the smaller time frames, like the 30-minute time frame or the one hour time frame, for buys heading up playing these ranges. If it is, I see we break below last week's low, I'd look for sells on the retest of the low as resistance and sell it down to the next downward range at 1850, and then the bigger range down to 1700. Right? Things to note, we could drop down a little bit below 1934 and get some support around 1880 to get buys into the previous week's high. So that's what I'm looking at for Eurjpy. We have two scenarios. We could be in this daily downtrend coming down to retest the low to create a double bottom. 1, 2, we could find some support at 1934 and head up to retest the highs of last week. And 3, we could range, you never know. So that's my idea for Eurojpy. Why, as I said, the main thing is not the overall bias that we get from the market. The main thing for me and how I trade is on a day-to-day basis, what price action is showing me for a given session, whether it's London session, US session, or well, I don't really trade Asian session anymore until we see some more action happening. But yeah, we have the highs and lows for the previous day and the previous week, and we're looking to see price action coming into those highs and those lows. So my first thing, I'm gonna reiterate again, my first thing I'm gonna look at next week is the reaction around last week's low at 1934. If we get the bullish price action that we like to see, that's things like pin bars and morning stars and things like that, I would enter buys, put my stop loss below the last week's low, and hope for the best at that point. Versus downward bias would be if we get a retest of Friday's high or even last week's high, we could engage in sells down as each level begins to break to the downside. Hope that was helpful.